Education in the colonial period is fundamentally about, if you like, the evisceration of what were perceived to be backward cultures. The essential idea is to bring civilization to these colonial people. The idea is premised on an analysis that the indigenous cultures of these people everywhere, in all of these places, belong to a whole anthropology of, if you like, mysticism, witchcraft, barbarism, and so there's a deliberate process in all of these places, and India, of course, is the leader in some of this. And a deliberate process in all of these places to root out indigenous knowledges, to root out indigenous understandings of the cosmos, beliefs, practices, and so on. So in the colonial period, here in South Africa, it takes the form particularly of erasing African language. African languages have no currency as mediums, media of, if you like, education. And so the early colonial experience here in South Africa is marked by assimilation into dominant culture. There's a deliberate attempt to resuscitate indigeneity here in South Africa along the hierarchical terms of inferiority. Know your culture is how that education is approached. Know your culture, but accept that your culture is inferior. In the apartheid period, the whole ethos is about respecting that ontus, that ontological history, and acknowledging it. And this is the complexity of it. It acknowledges it, but at the same time, it declares it inferior. And in the Iceland Commission, they say explicitly, there's no difference between the intelligence of black people and white people. They say it, and it's really interesting. No difference. But black people, in staying true to who they are, it's this ontic kind of acknowledgement of who people are. They say, you must develop at your own pace. You'll take 1,000 years to arrive at the status of where we are. That's what your historical destiny is, and that's what apartheid comes to institute. This thing about being separate and apart, but unambiguous inferiority. So it's an important shift that happens between colonialism and then apartheid. It's episodic. So in moments you'll have a sustained run at what the problem is, and we've had sustained runs, and they are often inspirational, but often not actually. So the decolonial project here has, in many ways, this obligation of trying to understand its connection with earlier struggles, and it struggles with that. So it struggles with connecting with older struggles around how dominance works. Its focus is racism in the present, and current forms of racism, and the current experiences of people in these very racialized kinds of environments. So it's a very difficult project. And I think one has to be aware of this globally. So it's really important to decenter the Eurocentric idea, and this is what this decoloniality is helping with. A decentering of all of that. So Africanisms, Africanacity, is a really critical, if you like, response to it. But it has to be managed, and so here's my comment about that. It has to be managed in terms of understanding what that totalization of the hegemonic last, now I haven't mentioned this, the last 500 years have been. So you've got to understand the last 500 years and what's happened within these last 500 years. You've got to deal with how our knowledges, how our disciplines, virtually all of the social sciences and the hard sciences, have been so, if you like, scripted on the basis of white superiority. And if you don't understand how that Eurocentric idea comes to be institutionalized as normative and constitutive, I think you're in some difficulty in terms of thinking about what next steps should be.